Hi there, I'm Johnny Norton with Bounce Beyond, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to the updated Three Horizons maps for the Selva Maya and Mesoamerican Reef Systems Change Initiative. And so this is the story of SMR's Three Horizons, with SMR being the Selva Maya and Mesoamerican Reef. We will be able to share more context about the Three Horizons methodology in further resources. And this video is in three sections, and two of my Bounce Beyond colleagues will be joining to present the second and third sections. Section 1 looks into Horizon 1, which takes a focus on the current SMR system. Section 2 looks into Horizon 3, which is the visionary future for SMR. And Section 3 takes a focus on Horizon 2. And Horizon 2 represents the transformational journey that is going to take us out of Horizon 1 and into Horizon 3. And we want you to know that while Bounce Beyond is voicing these maps, they actually represent the voices of SMR. So both those within TNC who are representing those voices and external to TNC. So perhaps those who reside within the region. And please take time to view these maps and listen to them at your own pace. We will also be sharing PDFs of the maps so that you can go in and look at the text in detail within each box. There's a lot of data that we've had to cram into these. So because of that, the text is quite small. So as we're running through, you can have this PDF to jump into whilst we're going through the map if there's any text that you can't read. And so then onto Horizon 1. So a reminder that Horizon 1 takes a focus at the current system of SMR. So the current dynamics, the current relationships. And for Horizon 1, we asked three questions, and you can see them there on the left-hand side of the screen. And so at the center of Horizon 1, we find unsustainable markets and practices. These are both land-based and freshwater, and fisheries and marine, and these influence one another. Within the land-based and freshwater box, we have ecosystem loss and impacts of agriculture. There's external economic practices and pressures from and on industry. There's increasing forest fires. There's tourism and infrastructure issues, conflict with Mennonites, and unchecked urban development from nature and forest to agriculture. Within fisheries and marine, we see fisheries growing but becoming less viable. There's unsustainable fishing and water use driving ecosystem loss, and there's slow rollout of technological alternatives. And these unsustainable markets and practices in the center exacerbate the deforestation and degradation that we find within SMR. There's increasing loss of biodiversity and deforestation. There's habitat degradation and species decline. And we also have increasing coral reef damage. And this deforestation and degradation undermines the unsustainable markets and practices. Within SMR in Horizon 1, we're also experiencing weak policy and governance. So there's weak public policy worsening ecosystem loss. Pressures for quick fixes, which often fail. And there's also government capture. And this permits the unsustainable markets and practices at the center. We also experience inadequate trinational coordination. So there's a lack of regional coordination and the complexity of trinational collaboration. There's a lack of effective trinational communication and a lack of climate and multilateral influence and or support. And this allows for those markets and practices to continue as they are, and it's impeded by the weak policy and governance. And the inadequate coordination worsens deforestation and degradation. And we also experience a huge amount of poverty and inequality. So we have increasing cost of living impacts. There's a low standard of living, human well-being stress, poverty and inequality undermining human and ecosystem well-being. And there's also COVID impacts, of course. And this precipitates the unsustainable nature of markets and practices. it increases the deforestation and degradation. And the weak policy and governance fails to address the poverty and inequality we experience. And we want you to know that although poverty is in here as a driver to other elements within Horizon 1, it's actually all-encompassing throughout the whole system and not simply a driver. So we tried to outline that with the arrows you can see here. And that poverty and inequality, it's preyed on by the structural violence and inequality of SMR. So we have violence against women, there's racism against IPLC, and there's also child labor. And this is perpetuated by the weak policy and governance. A major issue within Horizon 1 is the crime and impunity. We've got increasing violence, insecurity, and crime. There's increasing forest fires down to crime, and there's loss of ancestral and archaeological wealth due to plundering. This worsens the poverty and inequality that we experience, which feeds back into the crime and impunity. The crime reinforces the structural violence and inequality. And it also threatens the weak policy and governments, which then, in return, allows for the crime and impunity to carry on as it is. It contributes to the deforestation and degradation, and the crime magnifies the unsustainable markets and practices. And the trinational coordination fails to regulate the crime and impunity. Within Horizon 1, there's a lack of appropriate financial support. So we have a lack of appropriate funding mechanisms. There's not enough funding streams. The financial systems themselves are corrupt, and there's a lack of innovation within the whole financial system. This fails to support the unsustainable markets and practices and enables deforestation to continue as it is. It ignores the poverty and inequality, and it's enabled by weak policy and governance and completely ignored by the inadequate trinational coordination. We also have climate change undermining the ecosystem resilience. So we have worsening unsustainable water management, increasing landslides, drought, flooding, and the damage it causes, and increasing impacts of climate change undermining ecosystem well-being. And this amplifies the deforestation and degradation. Climate change also has an impact on migration. There's increased immigration and emigration within SMR, and migration is linked to land use and climate change. This increases, of course, the poverty and inequality, which reinforces the impact of migration that climate change has. And it exacerbates the fact that climate change undermines ecosystem resilience, which heightens the impact on migration. We also have many population pressures within SMR. So there's population growth, and there's increasing pollution and complexity of effective waste management. And this amplifies our center box there, the unsustainable markets and practices. They're driven by climate change's impacts on migration, and the population pressures are completely ignored again by the weak policy and governance. And another huge factor within Horizon 1 is the human and wildlife conflict. So we have increasing changes in land and animal disease and life cycles, and this human-wildlife conflict. This is driven by the population pressure and increased by the unsustainable markets and practices. The weak policy and governance actually permits this to happen, and it's again driven by poverty and inequality. Climate change's impact on migration increases this conflict. And finally, climate change's impact on migration increases this conflict. So that's our Horizon 1. And of course, it can seem relatively depressing and negative. But it's not all doom and gloom, because in the third question that we asked in the survey, we were looking at current aspects of SMR that you felt must be maintained, carried forward, and even amplified. So within Horizon 1, there's a lot of positive elements that are happening. So we've got increasing biodiversity levels. We have areas of low fire incidence. There are examples of sustainable finance, and we have local and indigenous involvement and leadership to some extent. There's increasing education, health, capacity, and nature awareness, And we also have improving relationships between each region, each nation, and internationally. And these positive aspects of Horizon 1 will come into our Horizon 2 system to be used as positive energy to drive change. Now over to Steve to run through our third horizon.
Hello, I'm Steve Waddell with Bounce Beyond. I would like to describe for you the future vision that has emerged in working with the Nature Conservancy for the Environment and People of the Selva Maya and coastal reaches of the Mesoamerican Reef System in Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala, the SM-MAR region. This is a third horizon or H3 design approach to a desired future, in this case, the year 2033. Rather than just describing goals and visions, H3 aims to describe the way it would work as a system and its core components and their interactions. It's a view of a transformed future where fundamental new organizing structures and outcomes arise from a new set of values and beliefs. H3 grows out of responses to 3 questions. Data was drawn from surveys, discussions, and documents. At the center of the future is continuously evolving human and nature well-being. This describes an ongoing direction rather than an end state. The direction arises from a mindset and mental models that are driving stewardship and conservation of nature. There's shared understanding of the role of nature in people's lives that forms a new framework for action. This new worldview is reinforced by and demands the development of a new norm of regenerative and collaborative conservation. This creates an integrative systemic approach to freshwater, forests, and marine conservation. Markets are being transformed to integrate regeneration as an imperative. This includes small, medium, and global enterprises operating in the region. In alignment with this market transformation, a regenerative finance world is emerging where investment and monetary allocations support the new conservation norm. Together, these form a nature-positive economy. Aligned national policy of Guatemala, Belize, and Mexico creates a framework in support of this nature-positive economy, driving sustainable practice on the ground with enhanced legislation and conflict resolution. National governments are investing in and supporting strong, inclusive local governance that has full participation of Indigenous people and leadership by communities demonstrating leading conservation practice. Together, these form an innovative emerging form of effective bioregional governance across national borders to address crime and illegal activities to provide human and nature well-being. This mindset and approach to governance and the economy are resulting in increased human well-being. Livelihoods are improving in concert with improved education, an improving natural environment, and enhanced safety. Society is becoming more just and inclusive for women, youth, and Indigenous peoples who are increasingly able to live to their highest potential. This transforming and evolving new world is being reflected in vigorous data, providing guidance and accountability, as well as describing recovering forests, biodiversity, and thriving freshwater, marine, and coastal ecosystems. Global support for this transformation into an iconic region has brought in resources from a wide range of international organizations. It is now recognized as a leading example of how to create a system of continuously evolving human and nature well-being.
Hello there. I'm Leslie Southwick Trask with Bounce Beyond. I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing you to Horizon 2 of the Selva Maya and Mesoamerican Reef Systems Map. This is the transformational journey between Horizon 1, the current system, and Horizon 3, SMR's visionary future. Horizon 2 not only provides the foundation for developing the accelerated pathways to the third horizon world, it lays out how SMR is going to gain traction and momentum in its systems transformation. You know, this map isn't about stopping or starting current activity. It's about a masterful reframing of SMR as a transformational system. As I run through the map, think about your own role in TNC and how each of these facets, while not necessarily included in your role today, can inform how you can represent the underlying mental, emotional, and behavioral models that underpin this map. We started with 2 questions. What existing initiatives do you feel could enable and accelerate the transition of the current SMR system out of Horizon 1 and help realize our vision for Horizon 3? The second question, what new initiatives do you feel need to be started either within your country or regionally that would lead the current smart SMR system out of Horizon 1? However, the development of this map emerged from the deeply held conversations with the 25 members of this region during our workshop in Belize. Further evolution of this map came from additional input from the core team leading this initiative. This is exciting and brilliant work performed by members of TNC who are deeply committed to this region and its realization of its visionary future. At the heart of this journey is developing transformational action. Here lies the coherence among and between the significant initiatives already underway, such as Conservation by Design, the Agility Lab, highly effective teams, the Hub, and other business unit activity. This is already where TNC is building capacity for transforming this region. The challenge with 2-dimensional images such as this is that it's hard to communicate the radiating effect of this sphere. It's all-encompassing, and it's moving through all of the various facets of this map. It is not simply a driver. Transformational action underlies and reinforces the development of an ecosystem approach to conservation, including redesigning innovative freshwater conservation, enhancing forest survival resilience, as well as marine and fisheries regeneration. This ecosystem approach brings into coherence freshwater, terrestrial, and marine regeneration into an ecosystem. Now, this ecosystem approach comes to life by empowering and legitimizing communities to drive conservation. Here is where deep cultural awareness is required to best reflect the ethos, wisdom, practices of the plurality of people who call this region home. Each local community holds its own diversity in ethnicity, beliefs, practices, and cultural relationships to nature and to one another. This facet of Horizon 2 holds the resonance of deep listening and challenging learning as TNC embraces how it is being asked to show up in these conversations, whether they be with a specific tribe, a group of women, the Mennonites, or any one of the ways in which people in this region self-identify. SMR is rich in its biodiversity, as well as its cultural diversity. Learning how to bring all of this diversity into formation is the quest of this element. Empowerment does not mean giving power. It involves creating the conditions for people to feel stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their lives and claiming their rights. Empowering and legitimizing are fundamental foundations of human well-being. Sponsoring pathways to human well-being includes supporting human rights, expanding access to social protection, health, and education, as well as co-creating pathways to happiness and well-being. As you can see from these arrows, this involves mutually reinforcing relationships. Transformational action, an ecosystem approach to conservation, communities empowerment, and pathways for human well-being are facilitated by a transformational mindset that embraces nature for people and planet. This is easier said than done. Our mental models shape the way we see and shape the world. This horizon is asking the people of SMR to be transformation, not simply talk about it. Now, before you fall into the trap that happens to most of us when thinking of what it means to change mindsets, this isn't like a light switch or a momentary awakening to a higher consciousness. Embracing a new mindset requires consistent, co-creative programming, mechanisms, pathways that meet people where they are. Switching consumptive demand to sustainability products and actions, and co-creating mechanisms for the public to influence policy and regulations require extraordinary collective strategic action. Here is where compelling narratives play a fundamental role in speaking to distinct audiences with messages that relate to them, while holding the master narrative for this region to be consistently in play. Shifting mindsets is not about telling a sector like the private business sector to get on board with becoming more responsible. It is about helping them to experience SMR as an iconic place in which they play a vital role in its regeneration. Becoming an iconic place is what Horizon 2 is all about. The nature and type of equity that evolves from shifting mindsets not only becomes evident, but becomes reinforced through cross-system multilateral collaboration. This is about more than just the usual suspects that are always there for TNC and this region in terms of conservation. This requires developing and nurturing trusted relationships with governments, business, markets, producers, and the like across and between all levels and sectors. This facet functions more like a hive than a series of boxes on a pan-organization collaboration chart. It becomes real when these collaborations are formalized in innovative forms of system-wide governance. All of the previous facets of Horizon 2 pave the way for nature-positive value chains. This is where SMR strengthens social and cultural capital for innovative, sustainable livelihoods, nature-positive regeneration, and indigenous economic frameworks. This is where following generations are empowered by their traditional knowledge, where regenerative practice spreads across key producers and service providers, and where markets, business, and investment capacities are developed for nature-positive offerings. Ecotourism is already revealing a pathway in this area. Now, these value chains do not simply appear. They are crafted through relationships that continually spread throughout this region and into the world, one conversation at a time, one decision at a time, one action at a time, until they create the multiplier effect that reveals a distinct blueprint as to how this region creates nature-positive value. The facet that holds this transformation agenda together is system-wide governance. SMR is already in motion in its trinational coordination and collaboration. Here, however, the region is looking to go deeper and broader with political will, commercial exchange, and refocused government leverage. This aspect of the system is one of a lot of innovation when it comes to power, decision-making, resolving conflicts, and holding the system to account. We can see what an intricate role this system-wide governance plays when it comes to harmonizing, enabling, and driving and sustaining other facets of this system. This system-wide governance is aligned by harmonized regional strategies. This is where we experience the sharing of best practices across the region, building on one another's successes, and where better tax policies and exchange rates can be developed. This harmonizing of strategies can secure strengthened support from development partners. What we have just moved through illustrates a complex system in transformation, and this complex system requires financing. This is why it's crucial to align finance to people and planetary needs. This is the playing field of innovation in financial and investment mechanisms, including blue and green bonds, carbon markets, and biodiversity offsets. Here is where attention must be paid to reversing harmful subsidies, taxes, and tariffs, and addressing regressive laws. This is the landscape of possibility and potential for nature-based solutions and transformation investments. For this system to function and evolve, it's necessary to incentivize and embed holistic accountability mechanisms. This is where socioecological metrics come into play, where we monitor, feedback, and hold to account the SMR system as an intricate web of environmental, social, economic, political, technological, and governance systems as they find coherence as a whole system. While employing methods for tracing, tagging, and certifying throughout production and value chains are vital, this element is more about action research and applied learning than enforcement. As this region builds the capacity for effective accountability, its people will show up ready and willing to be accountable for theirs and nature's well-being. One of the major issues that arose both through the survey as well as our retreat conversations revolved around crime and illicit trade. Both play a significant role in this region. The reason that we've left it to the end of this narrative is because the strongest antidote to crime and illicit trade is a strong, viable system in which people and nature are legitimized and enabled to flourish through strong and life-affirming means. Yes, it will be important to cohere and amplify strategies to address organized crime and illegal activities. That said, healthy systems have an implicit and explicit intelligence in how to deal with disorder. And so there you have it, a vital SMR in motion towards its third horizon. The dedicated TNC members who created this map have put forward not only a powerful rallying cry for transformation, but a masterpiece of adaptive pathways that can lead TNC and this region to its 2030 goals. There are already strong elements in the current system that provide significant leverage: programs, relationships, collaborations, financing, increasing biodiversity levels, as indicated in the red boxes that came in from Horizon 1. There are also pockets of Horizon 3 already in play, the green boxes. These include expanded awareness of healthy ecosystems, youth and Indigenous leadership, increased funding, aligned strategies, the recognized importance of technology for transformation. This is a great news story. You are a member of an organization that sees itself as a vital system within the SMR system. In today's world, this is a highly relevant perspective. You, as an individual, are a diverse, complex ecosystem, living in this diverse, complex ecosystem. What does this mean? It means that while Horizon 2 will require TNC and its SMR partners to activate and realize this transformational agenda, you have the power and agency to translate its meaning into the roles that you are playing today. Think of it like a hologram in which every part contains the whole. All of these elements profiled in this map exist in you in the role you play. While you may become involved with co-creating and activating certain facets of this Horizon 2 more than others, all of them exist in some form or another in each and every member of SMR as a transformational system. I want to thank you for coming on this quick ride with me through Horizon 2. It has been my honor and my privilege to share this with you. Thanks.